This is the Field of 68. I'm Vince Wolfram.
I'm Jojo Cavanagh in Auburn, Alabama. And this
is Straight Out the Jungle.
Welcome back to Straight Out the Jungle. My name is Vince Wolfram.
And I'm Jojo Cavanagh.
And a big one this Monday night. Ready to thrive in 2025. Auburn closed out the 2024 season with a dominant win over Monmouth at Neville Arena. Finished the non-conference season on a high, Jojo. That was a big, big win for Auburn and the Bruce Pearl. This team is on fire.
Yeah, it was their 60th consecutive non-conference home win in Neville Arena. So just talk about, that's a crazy stat in itself, but just ending the hardest non-conference schedule in program history with a win in Neville going into the new year. Just talk about what a way to end 2024 for this team and the non-conference schedule.
They just made it look easy. I feel like everyone thought it was going to be a lot of tough, tight games, but honestly, a lot of them were big 20-point wins. Looking back on it, there was a lot of games I thought that we dominated far more than maybe most expected. Maybe we're further along at this point in the year than most thought. So an impressive overcome of that, I guess, over the non-conference, beating teams by more than reporters, than analysts thought we could, and proving them wrong, I guess, in our spot with the hardest non-conference schedule, arguably in the country. So Bruce Pearl, he's got this team on a tear, and there's one guy who's been on a tear the last couple of weeks who came from a D2 school, and he is on fire. And who is that guy?
Chaney Johnson, which we know I love talking about him, but I have to bring up one thing because we didn't bring this up in the intro, and I feel like I don't know if people know this, but it's our first episode where we're twinning.
Hey, you already know the vibes.
This was not.
It was a must.
Yeah. Christmas, thanks Santa.
Yeah, for real. Thank you, Santa.
But I hope Chaney Johnson got everything he wanted for Christmas because
I hope he has one of these.
He showed up once again. Talk about in the Georgia State game, he showed up when Auburn needed him most with Johni Broome down. In this game, Auburn came out flat-footed. We were shooting horribly. I think I tweeted out at one point, Monmouth was shooting 55% and Auburn was shooting around 30%. So it was just we did not look good offensively. It looked like, I don't even know. It looked like they ate too much at Christmas dinner for the first 5 minutes. Everyone did, but Chaney Johnson came in and he stepped up. He went on a tear. He had 10 straight points. It was 28-28, 10 straight points to give Auburn a 10-point lead. This led to a Monmouth timeout, but that just was that spark that Auburn needed because going into halftime, then Auburn went up 18-0. So that he had 10 points, 4 free throws, and he had a dunk, a layup, and a jumper. So all points in the paint, but he's just that guy that you would never expect, not that you didn't expect it from him, but coming from a D2 school and having all of these veterans, he's the one stepping up in moments when Auburn needs it the most. Like I said, when Johni Broome's out, when we're tied against Monmouth, who's 2-10, well now is 2-11, but still when Auburn needed it most, Chaney Johnson stepped up. You know what sucked? We almost went on a 20-0 run going into halftime, but they didn't count that Chad Baker-Mazara buzzy.
I know. And it was a tough one, too. I was like, no way he's going to make this. And sure enough, in the most Chad Baker-Mazara way, he did score the basket. But to all your points, Chaney Johnson has stepped up in a major way. When Johni was out, Chaney Johnson stepped up in a major way. When those players, the swing players, the CMOs, the CBMs, the Dylans, the Jaheems, when those guys don't step up, I feel like Chaney's been the one that's been there all season long, waiting for opportunities and making opportunities for himself. Certainly did that tonight. They really had no answer. Not many teams, when Chaney gets in the zone and isn't battling foul trouble, have had an answer for him. And I think it comes from the strength that he's built over the last summer, over the offseason into this season. He's a different player. He's got more strength. He's using his body more. He's using his shoulders, crash into people, make space. It's really made a big, big difference in his game, and it shows.
Oh, yeah. I said it to Ira Bowman. Like, it's my favorite storyline of this season. I love the development of him. I love watching him play and just the leadership role that he has taken in stepping up when Auburn needs him the most. Like, I think everyone had a heart attack when Johni Broome went down. And we were like, Chaney Johnson stepped up. But Bruce Pearl wasn't shocked. He was like, this is who I saw Chaney Johnson was from the beginning. He just needed the development to get there. Now he's finally there. And tonight was proving it. He had 10 straight points. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, there was a 10-0 Chaney Johnson run at one point. It was just all Chaney Johnson, and it was full steam ahead. No train was going to stop this guy on the tracks. But another guy, you mentioned the word development. And another guy, every time I watch him, I can see development happening. That guy is Denver Jones. In my opinion, he's the most underappreciated big time player, maybe in the SEC, certainly on Auburn. Of the big players we have, of Janai, Tahad, all these big names that have been on the highlight reels. You've seen him on your Instagram page. It's not Denver Jones. And I don't get it because I think his game is fabulous. In the first half, he had a series that I think swung the momentum of the game. It was early in the first half. I think there was around 11 minutes left. Like you said, Auburn hadn't really found their mojo yet. It was tied, a bunch of lead changes in that first 10, 15-minute mark. But there was one play. He got in the passing lanes. If he would have caught the ball, it would have been a steal and a dunk. Instead, he taps it out of bounds. Monmouth gets the ball back. They come back down. Denver Jones is guarding their guard. And that guard had scored 2 threes on the last 2 plays. Denver Jones, A+ closeout, locks him out. Defensive rebound goes to Tahad. Denver takes off up the court, gets to the wing. Tahad finds him. Denver set up, shoots it, nails it, just as we had all expected. But from that point, like it was 28-26 at that point. By the end of the half, it's 46-28. Like that momentum he builds both offensively and defensively, like that play I talked about. He started it with defense. Could have been offense, but instead he came back on defense and did what he had to do and then finished the job on offense. Auburn did that all night. I think it was led by Denver Jones. He doesn't turn the ball over either, which is a big thing, especially with Bruce Pearl's point guards. We know how much he relies on those point guards. We've seen him go for big, big nights. We know what that reliability is between coach and player, especially in that one spot. Doesn't turn the ball over. They had 2 turnovers, Auburn did, in the first half total. And in the entire game, they only had 7 as a team. And Denver Jones, being the point guard, he's the leader of that. So I thought it was a fantastic game from Denver Jones. I love what I'm seeing from Deuce.
Yeah, and you mentioned momentum. And like I said before, Chaney Johnson provided that momentum when he went on that 10-0 run. But Denver Jones gave that spark that Auburn needed when in the beginning of the game, Monmouth was shooting lights out from 3 in the corner. Like they were shooting the ball, but Auburn answered because Denver Jones had 3 threes in the first half, 9 points. If we didn't have that, Auburn could have been down way more than 5 points, and that could have been really dangerous. So Denver Jones provided that spark for Auburn getting those threes in the first half.
Yeah, he stepped up. He's a guy that steps up anytime it's needed. Whenever there's a lapse and maybe Johni Broome is not playing the way he is, or he's in foul trouble, or there's no bigs in the game, it's almost like, okay, who do we rely on? And then Denver does it, but nobody remembers it. I feel like they all remember the Chad Baker-Mazara flash or the Tahad spark or Jahki's dunks, which we will certainly speak about later in this episode. But nobody remembers the Denver. I need Denver to get some love, man. That's what I need. I need some Denver love.
I agree. I do feel like he is so underrated. I think it's because he's not, as outspoken. He's not the Chad Baker-Mazara personality. He's not the All-American Johni Broome. But the way Denver Jones plays, I think it's because he's so smooth and humble. It's kind of like, he's not just like, obviously he's confident, but he's not like showy. Like he's not the Chad Baker-Mazara energy, but he's a player. Like he's a dog.
100%. He just flies under the radar because 1, how good he is, and 2, just how smooth his game is. So Denver, shout out to you. And there are plenty of good players right in line behind you. Played well tonight against Monmouth.
Yeah. Of course, Johni Broome, the All-American, he had 14 points, 11 rebounds. But I really want to talk about within Johni Broome, within Dylan Cardwell, Jaheim Hudson, is the points in the paint. So Auburn had 40 points in the paint. This is compared to Monmouth's 20. So Auburn had double the amount of points in the paint, which is huge. And this is big because in the first half, like I said, Monmouth was shooting great from the 3. They were shooting 50%. Auburn was shooting 31%. So Auburn needed these points in the paint, and that really showed with Johni Broome, who had 8 points in the paint. Chaney, Jahki, and Tahad all had 6. Dylan had 10, and Jaheim Hudson had 4. So that made up Auburn's 40 points in the paint. But just talk about when not really having the best shooting game in the first half offensively, and then coming out in the second half, but just dominating in the paint, getting those plays. And I loved what I saw specifically from Johni Broome. It was Nothing different. He does what he does, nothing shocking. But to me, it was the players that stood out when it was in the paint was Jaheim Hudson when he came in and Dylan Cardwell. So first, Jaheim Hudson kind of came in during, Auburn up 20 points, 15 points, but just he came in and right away he had 2 points. And I know it was only 4 points, but kind of just proving himself when his time came that he was able to come in and get those points. And then Dylan Cardwell. So I know you're going to touch on him, but just his first career double-double, which I was so shocked. I can't believe it was his first ever, but I'm just so happy for him. But just like I said, when Auburn was not shooting great from the three, was not shooting great on the court, like at all, really, in the beginning of the game, but to have 40 points, double the amount of Monmouth's points in the paint, that is big coming from all those guys. And then the freshmen too. For Jahki, obviously, the dunks, and then Todd also to have 6 points in the paint. Just overall, a dominating performance there.
Yeah, offense. It was a night to be remembered for these cats because they were balling all night. And Dylan, double double Dylan. I think that's the nickname for the day. Usually it's the big guard of the game. Today it's a double double Dylan, the first of his career, like you mentioned, 12 points, 11 rebounds, 6 of which offensive rebounds. I want to talk about the offensive rebounding as a team later, but 5 defensive boards, 2 blocks, and an assist. That's a full stat line for number 44. He had a tough fall in the first half. 6 minutes left to go in the first period. Left the game for the rest of the first half. And it was a little scary. Went up to block a Monmouth player, came down. It was one of those tough lands where you just know they lost a little bit of breath and you're, oh, one of those. It was one of those. But Dylan, he came back and he competed at a high level. He did Dylan Cardwell things. And something I want to note about him is I was watching highlights of his from last season. He is a completely different player. When I mean completely, there is no part of his game from last year that has not evolved and elevated this season. He has a new confidence. His role changed a little bit, whether that be the lineup change with he and Janai on the floor at the same time, or the lack of pressure with a fifth year. I don't know what it is. He doesn't have to take business classes anymore. He can just take golf or whatever he's doing. Exactly. His role has changed. He stepped up in a major way, and now he's reaping every last bit of the benefits. And frankly, I hope the NBA scouts can see the same thing I'm seeing because this guy, he knew how to ball, and now he really, really knows how to ball.
Bruce Pearl said it tonight. He said that Dylan Cardwell should be in the NBA because the way he is guarding, which is crazy when you hear big Dylan Cardwell guarding, but the way he is guarding, Bruce Pearl said it tonight. But there's something that Dylan Cardwell said tonight that really struck a chord with me. And like I said, I was shocked it was his first career double-double. He's been at Auburn 5 years. He's such a presence on campus, on the court with the team that he deserved this. And he knows he did. Like he told in the media room tonight, well, last night, it is tonight, but we're filming this tomorrow. Anyway, he said in the media room, he was like, after finally seeing all these guys before me get double doubles, I mean, playing with Walker Kessler, Johni Broome, Jalen Williams, Jabari Smith, playing with all of those guys, he was finally happy to be on the receiving end of it. And I feel like that was just so humble. And I was so happy, just as like an Auburn student, as an Auburn fan, that Dylan Cardwell finally got this moment.
Yeah, it was so good to see him reap the benefits. And something you said that I noted in the middle of the game too is guarding on the perimeter. He does that at such a high level. Like it's kind of just crazy. Think of somebody 7 foot tall, as strong as a bull as Dylan is, guarding somebody like Jared Valencia on the perimeter, a guy that was shooting threes all game long and chasing him around. There was times Valencia blew by Johni Broome. Johni Broome's going to be the player of the year, folks. Like it's not an easy thing to do. And Dylan does it at such a high level. He can guard any position 1 through 5 in the half court and beyond. He's a tremendous defender, and that part of his game has grown so much and will only help Auburn moving forward.
Yeah, and I love bringing out the stats. So I found this one and I wanted to bring it up because this is kind of crazy to me, especially last season with Janai. Well, we didn't really see Janai and Dylan playing together, but we saw Janai and Jalen Williams playing together. We saw Dylan and Jalen Williams play together. This is the first game since the first round of the NCAA tournament in 2023 against Iowa, where 2 Auburn players had double doubles. So back then it was Johni Broome and Allen Flanigan. Last night it was Johni Broome and Dylan Cardwell. But I just couldn't believe it took that long. I feel like I saw the name Allen Flanigan, so I felt like that was years ago. So I was like, wow, I couldn't even believe that didn't even happen last season.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that one. I would have guessed Walker or somebody had one, or I don't know. I feel like Katie Johnson could have pulled something out like that, or somebody like that that's just a dog and can go get whatever they need to get on the court for their team to win. Somebody would have done that. So that's surprising. It's
Yeah,
very interesting.
I actually am bringing up Katie Johnson later, so I know you love talking
Oh,
about him. But
yeah, he's played
another
out.
fun personality that, makes up for Katie Johnson not being on Auburn anymore is Chad Baker-Mazara. And Chad Baker-Mazara had a great game behind Johni Broome with 13 points, 4 assists, another great assist game from Chad Baker-Mazara, really just always providing that energy. But it was those two 4-point plays. Like I tweeted out, that meme where it's like, if I had a nickel for this that happened twice, like I would have two, but it's weird. I don't even remember the exact meme, but
Yeah.
everyone knows. I hope you know what I'm talking about. My mom had
Yeah.
absolutely no idea and was like, what did you just tweet out? Anyway,
Shout
um,
out to Mama Cavanagh. Yeah.
having two 4-point plays, and I know Britt, who was the play-by-play announcer for tonight's game, he was like, I don't even think I've ever seen one in person, let alone two in the same game from the same player. So that
Yeah.
was crazy. And then the fact that he made both free throws. So he had two 4-point plays and the first one, clock was winding down, kind of the ball was getting passed around everywhere. Tahad kind of just throws it to Chad. Chad literally just goes, "Oop," and gets knocked to the ground and it went in and the jungle went crazy. But it was just that energy that Chad Baker-Mazara provided last night was on point. And yeah, two 4-point plays. What? Crazy.
Yeah. What is it? My birthday? Like, come on. That's the best Christmas gift I could have asked for. Two 4-point plays in one game from the same dude. That's rare. Like Britt said, very rare. It's rare to see one, much less two. And one guy that if honestly, before the game, if you had told me somebody hit two 4-point plays, I would have guessed it would be this guy, but it wasn't. It was CBM. Miles Kelly. Miles Kelly, obviously Auburn's best 3-point shooter. Well, I guess it's up in the air now. We got 4 guys and 40%. He didn't have his best offensive game today. It was 0 for 4 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3 in the first half. Had 2 points in the first half. Finished 2 for 7 on the night with 8 points, 4 boards, and 2 assists. But for me, this is the first time I've said this. His defense really impressed me tonight. He was scrappy. There was an added level of activity. There was an added level of intensity that I really liked from Miles. He was guarding bigger guards. He was guarding longer guards. He was jumping at shots, jumping at shooters, trying to get them off pace a little bit, trying to add an extra level of pressure on the perimeter. And I think that made the difference. I tweeted out when the game was starting. I think if Monmouth wants a shot to win this game, they have to limit Auburn's pressure and make every shot they shoot from the perimeter. And Miles Kelly, I thought, was a big piece of Auburn's defensive plan tonight to try to shut that down, which is a great sign moving forward. If you can get that from Miles Kelly in every game in SEC play, you're going to be in good shape guarding some 2 guards in the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, I just love how everyone is improving on defense from Dylan Cardwell to Miles Kelly. And just, it wasn't really, like you said, the best offensive performance from Miles Kelly. I don't really know if he wasn't in his groove. I think he still is recovering from that wrist injury. You kind of see him with that wristband. So I kind of think that has something to do with it, especially when you're
Yeah, me too.
mainly a 3-point shooter and that's kind of all in the wrist, kind of.
Yeah, right.
But I think that kind of has something to do with it. So hopefully he finds his groove soon in SEC play. But the fact that he still is making an impact on the game is just exactly what you want from a player who is not at 100% health right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm right there with you. I think that wrist might still be giving him a little bit of trouble. I'm sure having that week for Christmas break helped that healing process. I saw in the pregame pictures he was still wearing the brace. So I wondered how much of a factor that would be. I'm glad he's still shooting it. I'm glad it's not stopping him from shooting him. I would rather him keep shooting and miss or go 2 for 7 than to stop shooting because we need him to shoot. And I'm sure that helps it too, to just get back in that rhythm.
Yeah, I think we just all want that Miles Kelly Vermont energy.
We do. We
It's
so
coming.
do.
I feel it.
It is coming. Well,
But
the
yeah.
energy came from another source tonight. It happened to be 2 freshmen from the Knoll. And that
Oh,
was the first one. His name is Jahki Howard. And if you don't know it, write it down because this brother is not from Earth. He is from outer space. And he flew there tonight twice on 2 lobs from Tahad Pettiford. The first of which, I don't know if I had seen this since Gerald Green. That's a random NBA pull.
that's
A
a pull,
lob,
man.
a lob to a windmill mid-air. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I screamed. Like actually screamed.
A mid-air catch the ball, windmill dunk. in Neville Arena from a freshman. From
That's
freshman to
immaculate.
freshman. Yeah, that's
That's a
insane.
monster. Like that's not human.
Literally, like he's an alien. You can call him Victor Wembanyama if you want to. I don't even know Victor could jump that high. But just minutes after that, another one, Tahad, bringing it up the floor, finds Jahki with his back turn, catches the ball, reverse jam over his head. I hadn't seen anything like that in a long time.
No, and I just love how both of them were assisted by Tahad Pettiford. So it was like the freshman to freshman connection, both insane dunks in the jungle, both freshmen. Like it was like storybook movie type. I don't know. That's so cheesy. I know that's so girly of me, but like just the two
No, it
freshmen,
so was.
right? It's just it was awesome. It like gave me chills as an Auburn fan to like for them to have that moment in the jungle and then for us to have it watching, like screaming, standing up off the couch, both freshmen, like it was
Yeah,
what a way to close out 2024, Jahki Howard. Thank you.
seriously. Yeah, they left it with an exclamation mark. And in fact, two exclamation points for a little bit of extra added sauce. And I think just from a gameplay perspective, dunks aside, it's good to see Jahki score, and he finds ways to score in the minutes that he's gotten. And while they have been limited minutes in most games, he just finds a way. I don't know what it is, whether he's just has that offensive motor. He's got something that keeps him ticking on offense. He wants to come in and make a difference, and he has in most of these games. Today it was the dunks, but he also had a slash to the rim that was good to see. It was attack and offense. He makes some sort of impact in some sort of way every single time he's on the floor. And that I applaud, because after the start that he had to his college career, he's against odds. So props to you, Jahki Howard. You're going off, kid.
Yeah, the effort that you can just tell he wants it so bad. He wants to play more. He wants that playing time. So every time he's on the court, he is putting in that effort, whether it's dunks, whether it's driving to the basket, whether it's trying to make a three. Like he is putting in that effort. Same thing with Tahad. He's had a little bit of a different result, different college journey. He's one of the best freshmen in the country right now. Team high 5 assists against Monmouth last night. But just both of them kind of every time they're on the court, they both don't really look like freshmen. So I said that again last week, but it's crazy to see both of them. And just again, Jahki and Tahad, two freshmen, but both having different journeys, but both still putting in that effort to get Auburn that win.
Yeah, and I think too, them two on the floor together, it makes both of them better.
Yeah.
I think Tahad on the floor makes the whole team better, but you can see there's a difference when it's, say, JP Pegues or Denver Jones. Not saying that they aren't good teammates and not feed Jahki the ball. There's an energy difference when Jahki and Tahad are on the floor together. That is so infectious, and I would not want to be a defender. I'll tell you that much. I'm watching my head. I'm watching my ankles. I'm thinking about the future of my body if I'm guarding Jahki Howard and Todd Pettiford.
I am a little biased, but that energy is something called Northern basketball.
This is true. Hey, come on. I think Ira Bowman told us all we needed to know about that. He's spot on, because we saw a little bit of that tonight. I tell you what.
Yeah, it's nothing like the Northern and you. Knicks are, I think, on an 8-game winning streak right now. Auburn's closing at 2024, so I'm loving it.
And my Sixers won on Christmas.
We got a Knicks and Sixers win on Christmas, even when
Exactly.
we like destroyed Madison Square Garden. But anyway.
Still. Besides the point, so did Mikal Bridges.
Oh, yeah.
Villanova, another one. How about that?
Oh, yeah. But I think offensive rebounding is another point you wanted to bring up. Auburn had 16 offensive rebounds compared to Monmouth's 5, which led to Auburn having 15 second chance points and Monmouth's having 4.
I feel like it was just rare to see an offensive rebound go Monmouth's way tonight. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It was, yeah, it kind of just didn't happen.
Yeah, like there were 7 players on Auburn's roster that had at least 1 offensive rebound. That's absurd. Dylan Cardwell had 6 offensive rebounds, which, I mean, 6 rebounds in a span of 4 games is impressive, and 1 game is even more impressive. There was one fan I noted, too, that you could hear on the broadcast if you listen close enough. There was one fan that you could hear so distinctly. Our friend Michael Farmer was tweeting about it, same way I was. You could just hear him, his comments, you could hear him. And there was one on a free throw. Janai had missed a free throw, and Dylan gets the offensive rebound and kicks it to the wing. And you can hear the fan standing by the microphone go, "Thank you, Dylan." It just made me laugh, because it was like, yeah, he's been doing that all game. Give the cap a salute, right? And then he hit the guy for the 3, and it was a big deal. But I just thought that was so funny that you could hear the "Thank you, Dylan" on the broadcast. I thought that was too good.
Yeah, especially I feel like when it's ESPN Plus broadcast, you can hear the students behind the broadcast 10
Yeah.
times more. Like, it was so evident. My mom was like, what is that yelling? Why do they do it every time Monmouth has the ball? I'm like, Mom, this is the jungle. Okay. She hasn't been there yet. I'm like, that's the jungle.
This is what happens. Yeah.
But I thought it was crazy that Monmouth's leading rebounder, Jarrett Valencia, who had a great game, one of the best on Monmouth by far, if not the best, I thought, on Monmouth's team, but he was the leading rebounder. He had 0 offensive rebounds. So he leads Monmouth in rebounds in total, but to not have any offensive rebounds shows the impact that Auburn is having defensively.
Yeah, you talked about 40 points in the paint. I think a lot of that comes from offensive rebounding. Johni had 4 offensive rebounds. The margin of second chance points from Auburn to Monmouth, 15-4. That tells you enough. That shows the impact of offensive rebounds on a basketball game. 16-5 was the difference in offensive boards. And even a guy like Chaney, he didn't even get one. That's the kind of game we were having tonight. Like, Chaney is usually a guy that's cleaning the glass. Today, he didn't have an offensive rebound. There were still 7 other Auburn Tigers that did. So give Chaney a couple more. That's even more fuel to the fire on cleaning the offensive glass.
Yeah, and that offensive rebounds goes with effort. And with the Bruce Pearl team, with this team, you're going to get 110% effort every single game. So not really
100%.
shocked with that stat in this game.
Yeah, no, neither was I. And going forward, they are going to need that because now the non-conference is completed and the Southeastern Conference begins. It is going to be an awfully fun couple of months while also being extremely difficult for this Auburn team.
We sleep in May.
Yes, we sleep in May. There's so much star power in this SEC. There's so many great teams. There's going to be so much parity. It's going to be basketball magic for the next 3 months. And it starts in 2025. Auburn Tigers taking on Missouri in their first conference game. Jojo, you've got more on the Tigers versus Tigers Invitational to start off SEC play.
Yeah, so right now Mizzou is 11-2. They've lost games to Memphis and Illinois, but they have a big win, if not one of the biggest wins in college basketball right now, over number 1 Kansas. So when Kansas was ranked number 1, obviously Tennessee is number 1 right now, but Mizzou had the court store and everything. So they are a good team. And let's just say they were not a good team last year. They ended 0-18 in SEC play, just totally nothing crazy. So to go from that to beating the next year, the number 1 team in the country, that says something. But I'm going to bring back a little Auburn-Mizzou history. So this isn't
let's do it.
This isn't the first time Mizzou has played the number 1 team in the country. They played the number 1 team in the country back in 2021, and it was Auburn. So this was an insane game because I had to look this up because I just remember, like, I had like a weird feeling. I was like, I remember Auburn playing Mizzou, and like I was scared. And I looked last year, and it was not last year. We had like 100 points, and we dominated them last year. And I looked, and it was when 2021. So it was the game after Kentucky where we became the number 1 team in the country. And it was Auburn's first game in program history as the number 1 team in the country. And we won 55-54. So just talk about Mizzou obviously having their season last year. Dennis Gates has come in. I think who is it? That from transfer from Duke. I think it's Mark Mitchell. He's coming in. He's their leading scorer and rebounder, transfer from Duke. And just so he's completely transformed this team because he's ready to go and beat number 1 Kansas. And now coming in to Neville Arena, Auburn, like it was at Mizzou, but they've already beaten a tough team. So they're ready to come into Neville Arena. But like I said, I just had to bring up that history because I went to the history books and I was like, wow. And this is where I wanted to bring up Chaney Johnson because he won that game for us. He had 5 points in the final 90 seconds.
Stud. Well, it's funny you say that because with Auburn it was their first game as number 1 last time, played Mizzou. This time, maybe it's the game after Mizzou where we become number 1 because Tennessee, they play Arkansas on Saturday, same day we play Missouri. Never know. Coach Cal could whip out some start of SEC magic in this new red thread. So you never know. It could be a trend happening with Mizzou in number 1. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that would so be Coach Cal to just throw everything away. Like, I'm so ready.
I'm ready for it too. SEC play is just going to be so much fun. We're excited for it. So make sure you stay tuned to Straight Out the Jungle. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, everything you could think of. Make sure to follow, keep up with us because we have got a journey ahead. I will tell you that much. Jojo, you got anything else on this episode?
No, 20 episodes for 2024, and we are going to have way more for 2025. We are so excited. Thank you guys for sticking with us and listening to us this year. We are so excited for 2025 and to keep going. And let's just hope we keep having to talk about wins and double doubles and Johni Broome. And hopefully we'll talk about the #1 team in the country soon. And hopefully it's Auburn. But
Hey, AP.
hey.
Hey, it's us.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you guys have a happy and healthy and safe New Year's Eve. Celebrate. But yeah, from straight out the jungle in New York, I'm Jojo Cavanagh.
From Destin, Florida, where I just got off the plane, I saw Jahki Howard in the air while I was flying. He was just catching a lob. My name is Vince Wolfram. We'll make sure to see you guys next time. Like, follow, subscribe for more. We'll see you next time. Peace.
War Eagle.